So it's week 5 today. So what are we doing? Well, let's go and have a look. We're going to do a little review exercise. Going to be actually a lab. We're going to do a lab, short lab in class. It won't take very long, so easy couple percent for those of you who are here today. So we will do that shortly, where we're just going to go over and review some of the different concepts around using Git and GitHub. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to introduce, some of you are familiar with it, some of you aren't. We're going to introduce the Bootstrap Css Framework, and we're going to implement it into our PHP Flicks site so we can do some basic styling without having to create our own styles. We can leverage what Bootstrap offers. And then I will just allocate the rest of the time in class today. If people need some help or guidance, it says next Tuesday, which I should edit. Around assignment 1, which I've encouraged you to start. So if anybody has questions, I know there were a couple people who sent emails over the weekend, so I'd be happy to address questions or give some help on assignment 1 in the last part of our class. So first of all, I just want you to use the chat. When you think about last week's class, and very quickly, I want you to tell me what's one thing you learned about Git or GitHub last week that you did not know before last week's class and that you can still remember. Just right off the top of your head, did you learn anything about Git or GitHub last week that was new? If you do, just throw your idea in the chat. Okay, Elena says we can use it for backup and to save our code. Yep, we can use it to collaborate with other people. Okay, that's great. Karen says, yeah, we use git init to initialize to create a new repository locally on our own machine. That's right. Tyler says we can use the terminal for creating a repository. Yep, that's true. We're going to use the command line or our terminal a lot of the time. Anything else you remember? Okay, Sarah says, interesting, Sarah. It's interesting that you feel that way. A lot of students are unfamiliar with the terminal and they prefer like a graphical interface, you know, a drag and drop kind of thing. But that's interesting. It's good if you find the terminal less intimidating. And part of the other reason we like using the terminal is in one of your other courses later, if you're in web, if you're in advanced server-side scripting, or if you're in programming, your JavaScript frameworks course, when we're using Node.js, a lot of the work we do in Node.js is terminal based. So it's kind of, when we work with Git, it starts to get us comfortable with that interface. Okay, anybody else? Anything else you remember about using Git or GitHub? Okay, thanks, Shawshank. Multiple commits help keep track of all the changes. Yeah, so each commit, a commit is simply another word for a version, a time-stamped version, a snapshot of our entire project at a specific time. And Elena, yeah, you also mentioned the commits, right? So we're going to use GitHub over and over again. Probably more and more of your instructors are going to have you use Git. I know, for example, if you have more courses with Scott, you've got additional courses with Jarrett. He's definitely also like me. We're going to be forcing you to use Git and GitHub over and over again. And even during your exams, one of the things we like to do that I will probably do during your exams is every 30 minutes during your exam, I ask you to make a new commit and push to GitHub. So that way, A, you don't lose your work if your computer dies during the exam, but B, I can, as Shawshank said, because the commits keep track of the changes, I can see your progress during an exam. When you're working at home and I don't have any way to proctor it, by having you commit every 30 minutes. So I know I do that. I know Jarrett likes doing that in his online exams as well, even in class exams. Yep, each section upload. Yep. Yep, that's another way of doing it. So either timed or, yeah, when you finish a particular section, you upload to Git. So, yeah, absolutely, Elena. It should be a habit. Anytime I'm working on a project now, as soon as I'm done working for the day, I commit and push to GitHub. Because I don't want to come down to my office the next day, try to turn on my computer, find out my computer's died, and all of my code is on this computer, which may or not, may or may not be accessible. So I am always committing at the end of every day when I work. So when you're working on an assignment, that's the habit that you should be getting into, right? I'm going to work on this assignment for a little while. When I'm done, I'm going to upload it to GitHub in case something happens to my laptop. My code is backed up in the cloud on the GitHub servers. Absolutely, it should become a habit. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Yeah, and that's fine. There is a desktop client if you like it. I mean, there's many ways to work with GitHub. So there is a desktop, more of like a drag and drop. I think it's desktop.github.com. It's also integrated, so you can download it. I always find I get stuck with it. When it works really well. So you can make the commits in here. I just prefer the command line because I feel like I have more control. And Git integration is also built into most code editors like Visual Studio Code or PHP Storm or some your other JetBrains IDEs. They have it, so you can also use it. Next semester when we do ASP.NET, it's very tightly integrated into Microsoft Visual Studio because they're both Microsoft products, not Visual Studio Code, but the full-blown Visual Studio. So we will use that in September. And it's so easy within Visual Studio that I don't really use the command line in that course. But absolutely, there's lots of ways. As long as you're using Git and GitHub, I think, Tyler, thanks for mentioning it. It's a good idea to maybe look at some of the different tools and find a tool that you feel comfortable with. I like the terminal because, like I said, I have more control, and it's helped me really learn the commands and understand what I'm doing as opposed to just clicking things. But for sure, if you like using less of a command line tool, then absolutely go ahead. Okay, so we're going to do a quick lab. It's not actually a coding lab. I will go over the instructions. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to shortly create 8 breakout groups in our WebEx class, and you'll just randomly be assigned to one of the 8 groups. So each group is going to open up this link. It's to an online PowerPoint slide deck. Now, I want you as a group, you are each going to be assigned. So if you're in breakout room 1, here is your question. What is Git? Why is it widely used? So if you're in breakout room 1, you're going to use slide 2. It's got the number 1 on it. As a group, you're going to put in an answer here, and I want it to be in your own words. This is not a copy and paste from Wikipedia. It should be in your own words. You have to do 3 things on the slide. 4 things on the slide. Number 1, answer the question. So use the chat or use your mics in your small group. There's 25 of us, so you'll be roughly with 3 or 4 people in a breakout group. Come up with a good answer. Add your names to the slide. And then I want you to replace this image. I want you to go online, do an image search, find an image that helps support your answer. Okay. And then I also want you to include the source of where that image came from. So if you find it on the GitHub website or you find it in a search engine search, wherever you find that image, you find it from a tutorial site, make sure that you put in a reference as to where that image came from. Okay, so you'll be assigned into each room. So you're going to answer your question in the slide. Do not download this. So there's 9 slides here. And you'll just work together. And when you're done, just maybe give me a thumbs up. Okay. There's also the ability to call me into your breakout room if you need. And make sure you add your names to the slide so that I can give everybody their marks for completing this. Okay, this shouldn't take very long. I'll stop the recording. I'd say probably 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can just go through. And then this slide deck will serve as kind of a useful reference that you guys are all putting together. Useful reference for you, in addition to the materials I've already posted to Blackboard about how to use Git and GitHub. Okay, so this is for marks. Are there any questions about the instructions? and I will just pop into the various breakout groups and make sure everybody's doing okay. If you have a question, you can page me from the breakout session. There's a message the instructor option you can use. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording. I'll start the breakout groups, and I think we should be done by 8:30, but if you're done earlier, give me a thumbs up in WebEx. Okay, away we go.